How's it going? Welcome back to the streams. They are back. I am back, and I am excited. I'm here today to chat about what it's like to get to where I am right now, what I've been through in the past, 20 years. I keep saying I've been in the game 20 years. It's more than that now because I'm an old fuck. But because I kind of got an early start in these things, and I'm going to explain all about that whilst I get on with a little bit of work I've got to do. I'm planning out some bits and bobs, so I'm going to get on with that. You can watch me work, you can ask questions about my work if you wish, or about the things that I'm talking about in today's video. I started on my graphic art journey quite early on in my life, I think. Compared to a lot of people, I'm quite lucky in that I knew what I wanted to do pretty early on. I always loved art, and I thought that if I could make a job out of it, that would be super cool. And at the time of people at school, like, your teachers start asking you to think about, like, oh, what you think about jobs and stuff. I think this was probably like 13, 14. What kind of jobs do you want to do, etc. Like, I was thinking about art and computers together, if you get what I mean. And I was like, what kind of job is that? Like, what can you do to put art and computers together? So I just Googled that, right? And that ended up coming back with graphic design. And I was like, okay, that sounds cool. So I started looking into what that was and how you could get into it and things. Our school didn't have a specific graphic design course, but we had like a graphic design, like what was it called? Product design, it was called. So that was more about making like physical products, but I thought you would be using like similar software and stuff, which did turn out to be the case. And of course, if you're making a product, you can design the packaging for it and everything, and that was more what interested me. And I started specializing in art and in IT. I sucked at both of them because, like, I was good at the actual thing, but I was shit at paying attention to what the teachers actually wanted us to do. IT ended up just being more about, like, more basically just essays about internet technology rather than about actually doing anything useful, making websites or whatever. And art, if you've ever been an art student, as you'll know, it's all about jumping through hoops that they want you to hit, targets they like to see, and etc, etc. Ended up not really working for me, but it got me to where I wanted to be. Whilst all this was going on at school, I think it was from my product design teacher, I got given a CD with Photoshop elements on it, which I don't know if that still exists, probably not. Way back when, that was like a little sort of like teaser demo almost for Photoshop itself, I guess, to try and stop people torrenting cracked versions of Photoshop. They were certainly giving away to students at the time when I was there. They would give them away to people to try and have them use Photoshop instead of go to a competitor, get used to using Photoshop. He gave me this disc and I was like, oh, Photoshop, what's that? Looked into it and I was like, this is cool, but I'd rather have the full program, so I just downloaded and cracked Photoshop instantly. I thought it looked cool, so I was like, right, I'm gonna go check it out. I don't want this like half-assed version, I want the real thing. So I figured out how to get hold of it. And the first thing I actually started doing with it was I was following tutorials online of how to do. It was called the website was called Digimods, and it was like how to like modify cars. Like this was at the time where like Fast and Furious was really cool, and yeah, so I was wanting to like take photos of my own car and make it look like a Fast and Furious car, and then just like find photos of cars that I thought were cool online and like modify them in ways that I thought were cool and whatnot. So I started looking at how to do this and ended up really enjoying the process, and ended up being a great way to get to grips with most of the tools in Photoshop, because like when I first opened the program, it was like the most complex program I'd ever seen before was like Microsoft Publisher or something, and like opening up Photoshop and seeing like menu after menu after menu after shortcut and all these things up and down each side. I was like, what's going on with this crazy thing? And like those early tutorials really helped me get my head around that. So that was where I got my start. And then after I got to grips with it, I started learning kind of during the product design course how to make the graphics for the packaging. I was making this little MP3 player thing. And then when I was learning to make the graphics, I then learned how to I learned how to make these flat graphics in Photoshop. And at the time, I was making, I got into making like signature graphics for online forums, like early social media, you might call it. Just think of like a really basic version of Reddit where everything was just a endless comment threads, usually on a certain topic, sometimes just random. And some of the ones that I posted on, they had regular members who liked to have a signature at the end of their posts, so people could kind of quickly tell it was them posting. And I got into making the graphics for them, and I would post my own work that I'd done, and then say that anyone could request stuff. And I was just doing this for free because I was just some kid, thought it was fun. And yeah, that's how I got my first taste of like doing stuff for people who like wanted specific things. And I was like, oh cool, I can find this photo of this particular character and make it in this style or whatever. And then there was things like graphic competitions. If anyone remembers a website called Worth 1000, that was like competitions made for Photoshop users. So like they would give you a photo to work from, and then you would have to make it look a certain way, or they would give you a prompt and you would have to like make it as like what you thought it would be like in your head, kind of thing. And the thing that really got me like into like designing things as a whole was MySpace. And I was like, once you could like customize your if anyone's too young to remember MySpace, it's basically Facebook before Facebook. And you could customize your own kind of little thing that you would be working on, your own page. And I worked on my page a lot and just loved just like getting into the code, how you could like make one thing match up with another. Like if a certain image over here wasn't really supposed to match up with an image over here, but like how could you make it look like the image went over between the two and things like that. Nerdy stuff really, but like it really got me thinking about the design process as a whole. It was a fun time, and there was, yeah, I met a lot of cool people on there. Some people who were into graphics as well. And then it was around that time when I was doing these like gnarly graphics for my own stuff. Like some of my mates started noticing, and this was around the age everybody was starting like joining bands and making bands. I was in bands as well. So I would do logos for my bands and for my friends' bands and things. Again, at this point, never really making any money or even thinking about making money from this stuff, just kind of doing it because it was ace, and being able to do it was a privilege in itself. And like I said, I didn't do great at school, but I did just about scrape the grades I needed to get to university for an actual graphic design course, which ended up being pretty cool. I think there's some fairly major gaps in what they teach you at university and what's expected of you once you enter the workplace. I obviously only have direct kind of knowledge of design in that case, but I imagine it's similar elsewhere. But nonetheless, what that course did do was land me my first ever design job at an agency, because the agency came in to view all of the candidates and I ended up being the strongest at the time. They later told me that it wasn't about the fact that my work was any good, because I was just some random student, but they just thought I was a nice guy. So hey ho, either way, the course got me the job I wanted, right? Ended up working so this was early 20s. So I'd been obviously done my degree for 3 years, but I'd been doing actual graphics for like years and years at this point. Probably I'd been messing around with Photoshop since I was like 13. So it felt real good to get that vindication and be like, okay, I've been gunning for this thing for so long and I've got it, kind of thing. And working at the agency was super cool. Got to work with some really awesome, like, big name brands and things. It was like packaging and branding, and it seemed like exactly what I wanted. There was like, I'd been working towards becoming a graphic designer, and there I was a graphic designer, which was wild. After a few years of working there, I realized that like I still had the itch of like doing the stuff for my mates' bands and things. One of the other guys who worked there, he was in a band, and he was quite often like doing his own stuff for his band. And I was like, man, that's cool. Like, he's doing his stuff. I wasn't really in bands anymore at that time. I just didn't have any mates who were musically inclined at that time of my life. So I decided to start trying to put myself out there. I'd had an Instagram for a bit and was just posting the usual BS on it, like social shit. Close-up pictures of flowers in drains and being like, I'm so artsy. And I decided it was time to get back to doing actual design. So I started posting, I think dot work illustrations were really big at the time on Instagram. So I started posting those and got a good bit of traction with them. I got loads of likes and interaction and stuff on all that stuff, but like it ended up just not being like really what I wanted to do. I was only doing them because I was only drawn to it because it was popular, if you get what I mean. Like, I was only posting those drawings because that was the style of drawing that was getting the traction at the time. And I did get a few commissions and stuff, but it's that type of illustration, for me at least. I'm sure if you become well versed in that style of illustration, you learn the tips and tricks it is to make it worthwhile. But for me, it wasn't commercially viable, so I kind of changed up my style a bit to more graphically centered stuff, which I knew much better, and I could finish quicker, and kind of like it meant that I didn't have to charge a ton of money to make it feel worthwhile, if you see what I mean, because I could get work done quite quick. So all the while, I think I changed jobs in 20. So I started anesthetic in 2015. I think I then changed jobs in 2015 to a slightly less. It was still a graphic design role, but it was a slightly less demanding role than the agency. In that they didn't like. If you've ever worked at an agency, you will know this, that like basically the hours end up being insane because they tell you that like, oh, if there's ever like a rush job on, or these days I guess they would call it crunch, if there's any time crunch, it's just part of the job to try and keep on top of it, you know what I mean? And it made sense. And like when you're a kid, it's like you'll do anything to keep this job kind of thing, you know? It's like, oh, this is amazing, and I want to keep this job, so you just like keep jumping through the hoops, and then you realize after a while you're just like, this isn't sustainable, I can't keep this up. So I moved on to one that was a bit less creative, but it was a 9 to 5, and because it was a 9 to 5, it allowed me to spend my actual own time, my evenings, on anesthetic. And it did well. It was doing well. Again, a lot of it was kind of like these illustrations. Some of it ended up being digital. I worked on so many different styles of things for a long time before I found what is currently my style that I don't know whether I say known for, but the style of work that I put out. And yeah, I think I got these odd jobs all over the place, and then really tried to focus in and nail down a style, because, you know, I was called anesthetic. So I was supposed to have an aesthetic that you come to me for, kind of thing. That was the whole idea behind it. But then I got sidetracked by all these different things and ended up working in all different kinds of styles, which I do like doing and can still do in a professional setting. But in terms of, well, anesthetic is still professional as well, but like I can still work in any style that I like to. But for anesthetic, I have my specific style, which I've nailed down now. And I've been really pushing anesthetic as like a business over the past couple of years, like really trying to move away from the fact of it just being like, oh, it's a little side thing or whatever. Pushing hard to make this thing that I've created real, to make it feel like it's kind of coming alive. And the start of 2026 really has been that. It's been amazing to see, amazing to work with so many cool people, and I'm looking forward to where things go in the future. I've got a big ass list of things here that I need to get started on now that I'm back from holidays. And I've got an even bigger list of stuff to do for the music label that I'm currently working with, 783 label. You should check them out. They've got lots of cool stuff coming up. And I've got lots of cool stuff coming up too. Lots of cool work coming out. Lots of cool announcements on the way. A big, huge decision was made whilst I was away. And it's equal parts exciting and terrifying. You might figure out what that is already. If not, you will soon. Yeah, looking forward to the rest of 2026. Looking forward to doing more streams. This one today, I just wanted to sort of get back into it, get back into the feel whilst I did a few little things. I've kind of got myself sidetracked. I've not really done exactly what I was planning on doing here. This is just some planning out for a sigil that I'm putting together. But yeah, looking forward to doing more streams. I've got more planned out ones coming with some more free elements like I started with, where you can download them and design along with me. And yeah, maybe some of the stuff on this list will get done on stream. Who knows? Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for listening to me ramble. I hope that is enlightening about what a design journey, what a creative journey can look like. Let me know any questions you've got in the comments if you want to know anything specific about what it's like to work in creative industries, or any tips and tricks you want to know about the styles that I work in. Let me know. This content is all aimed at being as helpful as possible to you guys. Like, I want to provide value. I want to be useful. I feel like I've reached a point where I've taken in so much from these 2 decades of creativity, and I want to start giving it back to the people who need it. So thanks again for hanging out with me in my oh, my arms are cut off, in my Human Revolution studio here. Let me know what you think of the sound quality and the video quality overall. That would be useful. I'm always trying to improve my stream setup. This is my new iteration of it, and I'm excited for the future. Cheers. See you next week. Have a good one.